through SQL. Again, what are the different operations, the creation of objects, the different types of SQLs present, okay, and why we use SQL. Okay. So let's come to introduction. Let me maximize. Okay. So today we are going to learn the basics of SQL. Okay, how to define SQLs. What is SQL? SQL is nothing but structured query language. Okay, so it is a language, okay, which is to be used to communicate with the databases. Okay, so we have so many languages, right? We have English, we have Telugu, we have Hindi. Okay, what do we do with this language? We will try to communicate with some other person so that we will get answers for our questions, or we will ask some questions and we will get answers from other person. So the language is used by means of communication, okay, where you will get some questions and you will get some answers. Okay, in the same way, SQL, structured query language, is also a language, okay, which can be used to communicate with the database. Okay, so you will be asking questions to database and database has to give the answers back to you. Okay, so to do all these operations, there should be a common language which should be understandable by the two objects, the human and the database. Okay, so that language which is common for the user and database is called the structured query language. Okay, so with this language we can communicate with database and we can retrieve the data and we can select whatever information we want, okay, from the databases. So we will learn this SQL so that we can communicate with the database very effectively. So once we learn the syntax of the SQL, okay, we can effectively communicate with the database and get our questions to be answered. Okay, so let us see the syntaxes and the history of SQL. Okay, so SQL is designed in 88. Okay, so SQL 1, and then it has enhancements in 92, that is called SQL 2, and then SQL 3, okay, in 99. So after that some standards came up, okay, which are called as ANSI standards. So ANSI is a third-party vendor, okay, which governs all the rules and regulations which should be made for the SQL language. Okay, so SQL will be generated by so many people.
Muted.
Okay, so for all these vendors, they are the third party governance authority, okay, where it will control, okay, so that all the SQLs will be compatible in any of the RDBMS packages. Okay, let's suppose Oracle has generated one RDBMS, Microsoft has generated one RDBMS package, IBM has generated one RDBMS package. If the SQL language is different to communicate with the databases differently, okay, then it is difficult for the learners, okay, that if I learn Oracle only, then I cannot communicate with DB2. Okay, if I learn only DB2, I cannot communicate with SQL Server. Okay, so if the languages are different and if the preparation of the vendors, okay, of their RDBMS packages are different, then it is difficult for the users to use RDBMS. Because if I am dedicatedly using Oracle, I can only use Oracle, but I cannot use DB2 in my life at all. Otherwise, I have to learn it from scratch again. Okay, so to avoid this problem, okay, ANSI has come up. Okay, ANSI has come up to make all these languages as standard as such that, okay, it would be easy for the users. Okay, it is enough to learn SQL so that they can communicate with any of the RDBMS. Okay, so that is how, okay, if we learn SQL, okay, which is a concept and which is a language, okay, we can communicate with any of the RDBMS at some certain levels. Okay, if I learn SQL, I can communicate with Teradata, I can communicate with SQL Server, DB2, Oracle. Okay, for all the databases, I can communicate at some certain extent. Okay, but each RDBMS will imply all these ANSI standards, and after that, they will implement their own flexibilities or their own syntaxes again. Okay, so for certain level, they will comply with all ANSI rules, and after that, okay, they will implement their own enhanced facilities to communicate with the Teradata and so they can publish. Okay, these are the extra facilities we have in this RDBMS, and you have to use this RDBMS for an effective communication or for an effective access paths. Okay, so like that they will publish, okay, the extra features. But before they implement all their extra features, they all has to comply all these ANSI features. Okay, ANSI features in sense, let's suppose for example, okay, if there is an RDBMS, to retrieve data from that RDBMS, we have to use select query only, right? Select star from the table name. So this is basic, right? So this type of basic should be implemented by each and every RDBMS in the market. That is the ANSI standard. Okay, if I want to update the data in the tables, they have to use the syntax like update table, okay, set value, so and so. Okay, so this is the syntax for update. Okay, in the same way, insert. Okay, for insert, they have to use insert command. Okay, so these are the some basics of SQL, okay, which should be complied with by all the RDBMSs. Okay, but after that, okay, there may be some date functions, okay, string functions, and then aggregated functions, OLAP functions. All those are of different for each databases. Okay, there could be different options, there could be different functions which they can implement their own. Okay, that we have to learn as per the database. If I am learning DB2, okay, this basic SQL is common, and then I have to learn the DB2 levels, string functions, date functions, and then aggregations and all. And in similar way for Teradata also, Teradata extended function, help commands, explain commands, okay, which are not in other RDBMSs but extended for Teradata. So like that, okay, first we have to learn the SQL, okay, ANSI standard SQL, and then we have to learn the database specific SQL. Then we can say that we can communicate with the database, and we know how to communicate with the database. Okay, so for these sections we will be learning ANSI standard SQLs. Okay, and after the advanced sections we will learn the Teradata extended SQLs. Okay, so this section is, okay, basically for the ANSI standard SQLs. Sorry.
Unmuted. Muted.
Okay. Okay. So for Teradata also, okay, Teradata has implemented ANSI standards first, okay, and once it is complied with ANSI SQL 99 standards, okay, then some new features also been added. So we will also learn those advanced features, okay, after we learn this ANSI SQL 99 standards. Okay. So SQL is basically divided and basically categorized in 3 different sub languages. Okay. So one is the data definition language. Okay, so within the SQL, the first subpart of the language is called data definition language, that is DDL. Okay, so what we do in DDL, what all operations we can perform? We can perform, okay, the definition of the objects. That means whenever we create a object, okay, object means that could be a table, a view, okay, a macro, okay, whatever it may be. Okay, there are several objects in database. Okay, if we start creating any of the objects, or if we start modifying any of the existing objects, or if we want to delete or drop the existing objects, okay, so those operations which are directly impacting to the definition of the objects, okay, those are called, okay, data definition operations. Okay, to make this data definition operations, we have to use this data definition language. Okay, let's see some of the operations. We have a create operation, okay, where we can use this syntax to create a new object. That means we are going to define this object. Okay, so it could be a table, a view, a macro, index, trigger, and stored procedure. Okay, so it could be any of these. If we are trying to create it, okay, then the command we have to use is create. Okay, and if we are going to drop or remove any of the existing object, the command what we are going to use is drop. Okay? And once the object got created, but I want to change the existing object. That means I have created a table with 4 columns, and tomorrow I need another column to be added to the object. Okay? That means I am going to change the definition of the object by adding one more column. Okay? That means we are trying to modify the definition of the existing object. Okay? To modify the existing object, the command we need to use is alter. Okay? So these are the basic operation in the data definition language. Okay? We are going to see closely, okay, how to use these commands. Okay? And the second category of the language within the SQL is called data manipulation language. Okay? So where we manipulate the data only, but not the definition. Okay? So I have created the database, I have created the tables. Okay? And within the table, what I can do, I can insert the data. Okay? Once I insert the data, I can retrieve back the data. Okay? Otherwise, I can update the data. If I feel that I am not going to use this data no more, I can delete the data. So I can do some operations on the data, not on the definition. Okay? So where I can insert some data with the insert command. Okay? I can retrieve back the data with the select command. If I want to modify any of the data within the object, then I can apply an update command. Okay? And then if I want to remove the existing data, I can go for a delete command. Okay, so these are the basic operations we can do through data manipulation language. Okay, so DDL is the first category of the SQL. DML is the second category of the SQL. Okay, and there is third category of the SQL called data control language. Okay, so data control language is used by database administrators to control the users, okay, to provide the accesses on the objects and the data. Okay, that means if we are all the users, we are in the project, okay, and there is another lead for the project. Okay, so the accesses which we should have should be different than their lead should have. That means we can only insert the data into the tables and we can retrieve back the data. So these are the accesses required for us. But there is a lead for this project, or there is an DBA, or there is an architect for the project. Okay, he should have accesses to drop the database or drop the tables or modify the structure of the tables. Okay, so there are some extra privileges he should have so that he can modify the objects also, not only the data. Okay, but as a developers, okay, we may not require the alter access on the tables. Okay, because if everybody started altering the tables, okay, then the structure would be inconsistent and it may lead to some other problems, right? So any developer, any normal developer should not have any alter access or any DDL, data definition access on the particular objects. Okay, the lead will create, or the DBA will create the object, and he will have all the accesses on the modification of data definition. Okay, he won't provide it to any of the other developers to make modifications on the definitions. Okay, so what all operations the developer can do? They can only insert the data, they update the data, or retrieve the data. That's it. Okay, and DBA or architects, they will have some extra accesses. Okay, how it could happen? Because of these grant statements. Okay, so the administrators will provide accesses by using these commands: grant, okay, so and so access, read, write access to this particular user on this particular database. Okay, so if they execute this type of commands, okay, the particular accesses will be given to some users. And if I want to revoke, that means remove any of the accesses, existing accesses for the users, I can use a revoke command. Okay, so revoke, okay, read and write operations on this user ID, okay, to this database, so and so, so that I can remove the existing access for the user. Okay, so in this way we can control the accesses of the users on particular objects based on their requirement and their operations which they perform on the objects. Okay, so this SQL DCL, will be used by the administrator to control the accesses. Okay, so grant, revoke, and give. Give is for transferring database ownerships. Okay, so anyway, we are not going to see closely these comments because these are of DBA related, so administrator related. So here we are just learning there is another category of language called data control language. Okay, and we have grant, revoke, give operations where we can control the accesses of the objects to the particular users based on their accesses of data. Just a moment. So, to learn SQL or to learn the relational concepts, we have to learn some other basics of RDBMS. Okay, we may know all of them, but let me summarize, and if we may know some new things also here. Okay, we know a table. Table is nothing but a combination of row and a column, and a row is nothing but a record in the table. Okay, so a combination of all the columns of a single instance is called a row. Okay. Column we know. Okay, if we have a table and if we have columns like employee number, name, okay, salary, and something. Okay, so each particular field is called a column in the table. Okay. And data values. Okay, so if we create a table and we start inserting the data, okay, the data item, which is a cross section of a row and column, okay, that is called a data value. Okay, and then domain. Okay, domain is nothing but the set of all possible data values for a particular column. Okay, what does it mean? Domain is nothing but, okay, let's suppose we take an example of column called, okay, gender. Okay, gender is a column, okay, where we will mention, okay, whether the gender is male or female. Okay, so most of the times we don't mention any of the other genders, okay, other than male and female, right? So the domain of the particular column is nothing but male comma female. That means, so these are the possible values that we can enter into that particular column. There are two values only, right? Male or female. Let's suppose if we take one more example like employee number. Okay, employee number. Okay, if I mention it as an integer data type, okay, I can enter only the integer values, right? So that is the domain of the employee number column. That means we can enter only the integer values, but we cannot enter any character values, and we cannot enter any decimal values like 0.00, 0.21, 0.52. Like that we cannot enter any decimal values. So all the possible integers could be the domain of the employee number. Okay, so like that we can define the domain of the column based on its data type and the data values which it is going to contain. Okay, so if you take a gender example, it is a varchar of 5, but still it cannot have any of the other combination of characters, okay, which is nothing but, okay, which it can accommodate only MALE combination and a FEMALE combination. Okay, but it cannot contain other than any of these two values. So that is called the domain, the set of possible values which we can insert into that particular column. Okay. Then we have a primary key. Okay. Primary key of the table is used to uniquely identify a particular row. Okay, so a column in the table which is used to identify a particular row uniquely. That means if I say employee number is 121, okay, so with that value itself I can identify, okay, the person name would be so and so, and this person would work in so and so department, and this person is having that much of salary and he has joined so and so date, right? So I can identify every detail of the employee by finding his employee number. right? If I know the employee number, I can go and I can set the database so that I can find out all his details, right? But let's suppose if I have another column, employee name, okay, and in the name I am saying, okay, so and so person, okay, XX is the person name, okay, and if I give the name, can I identify all his details? Okay, there can be some other person also with the same name, so I may not be getting all his details accurately at that moment. Let's suppose with the XX name there are 10 people. Can I tell the details of the XX employee? No, because there is an ambiguity, there is a confusion that, okay, with the XX employee name, I got so many employees, so I cannot mention the details of the person, that particular person which you are intended to. Okay, but if I give the primary key, okay, the employee number, okay, the number is not repeated to any of the person, and it cannot be duplicated, and it cannot be null value. Okay, so if I give that particular column value, then I can retrieve all the other information without any ambiguity or without any confusions. So there should be a column such that, okay, for each table, so that if I get the value of that particular column, I can retrieve all the remaining information. So that particular column is called a primary key. Okay, so bookish definition of this primary key is, okay, the column in the table which should identify the row uniquely. Okay, that particular column is called a primary key. Okay, and then we have one more key called foreign key. Okay, so columns that serve as a primary key in another table, but they exist as a foreign key in the current table. Okay, so it will be used to join the tables between, okay, master table and child table, so that we can retrieve information, okay, across multiple tables. Okay, we will see the joining concept. Okay, so at that time we will see, okay, how we will use this foreign key for the joins, and we can retrieve the data. So joins is another concept which we learn in the next SQL session classes. Okay, so for now I hope you got and you revised your knowledge with this database basic terminology. Okay, so let me see, okay, how. Okay, so Chaitanya, so it's going good. Are you able to follow?
Yes, sir, I'm following.
Okay. Okay, let me know if you have any questions. You can stop me and you can ask questions.
Yes, sure.
So, yeah. Prashant? Is it fine?
Yes.
Fine. So let's move ahead. Okay. As these are SQL basics, okay, you may already know some of the information, but what I'm trying to do is, okay, I will make your basics standard, and I will give some more information also, so that you can understand, you can get the concepts clearly. Okay. Okay. So now let's start with a simple statement. Okay, select. Okay. So okay. Now you will, you are able to see the screen, right? Are you able to see the font?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So once we create the database, okay, what's the language we use to create the database or tables? That is the data definition language we use, and the create statement of the DDL we use to create the object, right? So once we create the object, and once we load the tables, okay, so we'll have some data in the table, and then once we have the data, what we have to do is we have to retrieve the data. Okay, so this is the basic operation on the table. Okay, let's suppose if you join any of the project, okay, you are not going to load the data, but initially what you are going to do is, okay, you have to use the existing tables. Okay, so using existing table is nothing but retrieving the existing information of the tables. Okay, the command you use, okay, to retrieve the data is select command. So this is the basic operation what you can do on a table, right? So we have a select operation. Okay. Select, here we have to mention all the columns, column 1, okay, column 2, etc. So whatever columns we want to see from the table. We have to mention all the column names in the select clause, and then we have a from clause where we have to mention the table name. It should be table name 1, comma table name 2. So we can combine the information of two different tables also. Okay, but we will see this concept in the joins. Okay, for now we will mention, okay, there should be a single table. Okay, so we will retrieve some columns from this table. Okay, so this is the simple query you can find. Okay, but there are some other clauses also we can add to the select operation. What are those? Okay, if I give select column 1, column 2 up to the number of columns and from the table, I will get all the data from the table, okay, and that particular columns, right? So if I have an employee table with 10 columns and 100 records, okay, and here if I give select column 1, column 2 from the table name, I will get all the 100 rows but only the 2 columns, right? But if I want to filter out the records horizontally also, then what the clause I can use? I can use a where clause where I can put some condition so that I can horizontally filter out the records. So suppose in the employee table I have 100 records. Out of the 100 records, 25 records are of department number 10, 25 records are of department number 20, okay, or 25 records are department number 30 and 25 records are department number 40. Okay, and now I don't want to see any of the other department employees, okay, but I want only the department number 10. Okay, so I'm expecting only 25 records out of the table, even though there exists 100 records. So how I can filter out the records? By using a where clause, right? Where the condition could be department number equal to 10. Okay, so if I give the condition, okay, I'm going to get only the 25 records out of this query, even though there exist 100 records in the table. So like that, I can vertically filter out the records by mentioning the columns here, and horizontally I can filter out the records by giving a where clause, so that only the required information I will get in my result set. Okay, and then we have one more clause called, okay, group by. Okay, group by column and another column. Okay, you can give a number of columns here also again. What it does? Okay, group by will group a partition or a similarly behaving values, okay, into a single group. Let's suppose, okay, if I have data like this, okay, employee number, employee name, DEPT, and salary, right? Employee number is 1, employee name is A, department is 10, salary is 10,000. Okay, if I have one more employee, BBB, okay, with the department number 20 and salary as 15,000, okay, and I have one more employee, CCC, the department number 10 again, and I have 15,000 salary. Okay, now with this data, if I ask a question, okay, what is the salary of employee number 1? Okay, what we can say? The salary of employee number 1 is 10,000. So that is a simple select statement. Okay, but if I ask the salary of the department number 10, okay, so how much I am paying for the department number 10? So what is the answer now? How much I am paying for the department number 10? How I can find? Right, the sum of the salaries paid for all the employees who are belonging to the department number 10. Okay, so for the first employee A is of department number 10. He is earning 10,000, and there is another employee CCC who is belonging to the same department number 10. He is earning 15,000. So now I can say this 10,000 plus 15,000 as the salary of the department number 10. Right, so 25,000. So what I am doing here, I am trying to group all the records of similar values, and I am making an aggregate operation on the salary values. Right, so I am grouping all the records based on the department number, and I am performing an aggregate function sum on the salary column so that I will get 25,000. Okay, so this is called a group by function. Okay, so here what I am doing in this particular example, I am grouping all the records based on the department number, and in the select clause I will apply a sum of the salary function. Okay, so how this query would look like? Select, okay, DEPT, comma, okay, sum of salary, okay, from employee table, okay, where DEPT number equal to 10, and now I have to group all the columns based on the department number column, right? So group by department number 10, or you can mention DEPT column name also, right? So generally the best practice is to mention the column name which is mentioned on the select clause. Okay, so we are trying to group all the rows of same department number, and we are trying to filter out the records which are having only department number 10. Okay, and then if I execute this query, what I will get in the select clause, I will get a DEPT 10. So result set would be like this. Okay, first what column I have mentioned? Department. Okay, department. Which department I have filtered out? Only 10 departments I want to see. Okay, and I am doing an aggregate function. So 10 will be displayed as department number, and then sum of the salary of the department number 10. So 10,000 plus 15,000. So it will be mentioned as 25,000. Okay, so this is what, okay, the answer to my question. Okay, the question was, what is the salary I am paying for the department number 10? Okay, so for the department number 10, I am paying 25,000. So it is not a simple query, it is an aggregation function, okay, where we have grouped the records based on the department number, and we have calculated the sum of the salaries which is paid to this particular department. Okay, so the query would look like this, and the result would look like this. Okay, so let's suppose, okay, I have two departments here. Okay, let me add one more data item which is of some other department. 30 and some 20,000 is the salary. Okay, so now I wanted to see, okay, all the departments whose salary is more than 20,000. Okay, the question is, okay, display the department wise salary okay, whose salary is more than 20,000. Okay, so first what I need to do, I have to calculate the department wise salaries for all the departments, and then I have to filter out, okay, only those departments which are earning more than 20,000. Okay, so this is my problem. Okay, now what I can do, okay, I will select all the departments and I will calculate all the salaries, and then I have to filter out. Okay, so how I can do, I will do the same way. Okay, I'm selecting department number, sum of salary from employee. Now I don't want to restrict based on the department number. Okay, I want all the departments who are earning more than 20,000. So I cannot directly specify department number 10. Right? So there is no such a condition. Okay, so group by department, I want to find out all the sum of the salary initially. Okay, so with this, what is the result set? The result set would be department number 10, and what is his salary? 25,000. Right? Department number 20, what is the total salary of 20 department? There is only one record, so it is 15,000. Okay. Okay. If there is another record of 20, then we would have added that amount also here. Right? But there is a single record of 20 departments, so we have given the salary of 20 department as 15,000. Okay. The 10 department we have already calculated, and for 30 department, okay, the salary is 20,000. Okay. So here we could able to sum the salaries of each department, and we have got an aggregated values of each department. But here my question is, okay, more than or equal to, let's suppose. Okay. So if the salary is more than or equal to 20,000, then only we have to display that particular department. So which is to be filtered out here? For the 10 department, the salary is 25,000, so it is eligible. For the department 20, the salary is 15,000, so it is not eligible. So we have to filter out this record. Okay, and the 30 department, the salary is 20,000, so it is eligible. So how we can eliminate this record, okay, from this result set? Okay, so to remove or to filter out the records from a group, okay, we have to use a clause called having. Okay, so having is the clause where we can filter out the records from a grouped records. Okay, so here it is not an individual record, right? It is a group records where we are grouping the records based on the department, and we are calculating the sum of the salary. Okay, so here if I want to filter out the records based on this condition, I have to use a clause called having. Having sum of salary is greater than or equal to 20,000. Okay, so 10 will be eligible for it because it satisfies this condition, and 20 cannot satisfy this condition, so it will be removed, and 30 will satisfy this condition, greater than or equal to 20,000. So the result set would display only 10 and 30. So how I could filter out the other department which is less than 20,000? By having a clause having, okay, with the condition. Okay, so like this we have group by and a having clause, again with a condition, and here we can say it is an aggregate condition. Right? So whenever we use a group by, there should be at least one aggregate columns. Here, how we found here? Okay, whenever we use a group by, okay, there should be at least one aggregate function. So aggregate functions are nothing but count, sum, okay, average, absolute. Okay, so all such type of calculation, the aggregation functions. Okay, there should be at least one aggregate function in the select clause, and okay, for all the rest of the columns, okay, they should be present in the group by clause. So it is a thumb rule of group by. Okay, so many people will do a mistake here in the group by. Okay, they will get some errors, syntax errors, because okay, they won't ensure that there should be at least one aggregate functions, and the rest of the select clause columns should appear in the group by clause. Okay, that means if I have one more column here, let's suppose department name. Okay, so if I give this query in this way, select department, department name, sum of salary from employee where department number equal to 10, group by department. Okay, what I am trying to do, I am trying to group the records based on the department, and I want to display department name also along with its sum of salary. Okay, so in these situations we will get a syntax error that the non-aggregated columns are placed in the select clause. Okay, so to avoid that error, what we have to do is, okay, the basic thumb rule of group by is we have to ensure there should be a minimum one aggregate function to be applied on the column, and the rest of all the columns should appear in the group by clause. Okay, so if you fire this query, then only it will execute, because here we have ensured there is an aggregate function and the rest of all the select clause columns appeared in the group by clause. Otherwise it would give an error. Okay, so this is how we will use a select clause, a from clause, where clause, group by clause, and a having clause. Okay, and while writing a group by clause, we have to ensure there should be only aggregate column and the rest of all the columns should appear in the group by clause. If you fail to have this any of the column absent from this group by clause, then you will get an error because non-aggregated functions are a part of select clause. Okay, so please note this. Okay, and the having clause is used to filter out the records on a group. Okay, so you may get a question: what is a where and what is a having? Okay, where is nothing but a simple condition on each row basis. Okay, having is a filter condition based on the groups or partitions, okay, which are having similar records. If I try to group these records and out of these groups I want to filter out the records, then I will use having. Okay, if I am not using a group by clause, I don't use a having clause because these two are related always. Okay, so I can use having only and only when I use a group by clause. Okay, but a where clause I can apply on the each row basis, so I can filter out the records based on its row values. So it is a simple condition on each row, but having is a condition on a particular group. So these two are a combination. Okay, and these all are optional. The basic requirement is a select and a from clause. Okay, where is optional. If you want to filter out the records based on horizontal values, then you can use a where clause. Okay, you want to group the records, then group by, and you want to filter out the groups, then you will use having. Okay, so these are the basic construct of select statement and the all options of select statement. Okay, so any questions here? Any doubts?
No, sir.
Okay, so tomorrow we will try to connect Teradata database. I will show you, okay, how to connect Teradata and how to create objects and manipulate the information. Okay, so tomorrow also we'll meet at same time, 7. Thank you.
Who is Ram?
Yeah.
Who is Ram?
Pardon?
I got a
Not
mail
able to
from Kapil.
Uh-huh.
Who is Ram, sir?
You got a mail from Kapil.
Unmuted.
Kapil or Devagan? Ram is not feeling well today's classes, sir.
I'm not sure. I think it is for some other class. He will probably added you also in that class.
Yeah, that's why I was confused at that time.
Let me check with Kapil. Kapil, are you there? Actually, Kapil is CTO of this organization. Okay, he will arrange classes for different technologies for different people. So he will involve in some other classes also. So might be he added you in some other email list. So we got the question. So there is no RAM, I know, for Teradata as far as. So we can ignore that email. Okay, fine then. So tomorrow we'll connect we'll see how to connect Teradata database, and we'll start applying this. Okay, the data definition first. That means we'll create a table, we will insert the data, and in insert also we will show different variants. Okay, inserting all the columns, inserting partial columns, and inserting from a file Okay, so all these options will see in insert, and then we'll try to retrieve the data, okay, based on the select conditions what we have used today. So let's meet tomorrow. Thank you.